Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Avery and today's video is going to be me budgeting my first paycheck from the month of February. I budget by paycheck using the budgeting software YNAB or YNAB Budget. I've been using this software for over 3 years now, so if it's something that you're interested in using, I'll leave a link down below to a 34-day free trial. I'm going to walk you through how I budget my paychecks when they come in using this software. So if you have questions about it or what I'm doing, definitely let me know down below in the comments. So I get paid bi-weekly. So like mentioned, this is my first paycheck for the month of February. And what I do with my paychecks when they come in is I go through all of my different categories that I have in this software and I allocate the money accordingly based off of what bills are coming out, what I'm planning for or saving for financial goal wise, and any sort of like fun things I want to do along the way. If you notice up here, I have an age of money indicator of 101 days. What YNAB wants you to do is to get a month ahead on your finances. So what that means is I've actually already covered all of my necessary expenses for the month of February. So I'm actually going to take this money here and go into March expenses and make sure I'm getting ahead on my March bills. And the idea of being a month ahead is that by the time March 1st rolls around, you already have all the money in your bank account set aside for March's expenses. So you're not really beholden to the paycheck to paycheck cycle that a lot of people end up in with their finances, which is what I really like about YNAB. You're able to set a plan and a goal to get ahead at least a month on your monthly expenses. That way, whenever something unexpected comes up, or maybe you lose your job, or perhaps there's some sort of issue with your payment system, like I know, for example, I think Capital One was having issues with deposits a couple weeks ago. If you are ahead on your expenses or if you're a month ahead, that is not really that concerning to you. What I really like about YNAB is that since I've been using it for a few years now, I no longer really care when I get paid. Like I'm never sitting around waiting for that money to come in because I need it to pay some expense. I sometimes am excited to get paid just because I get to go into this software and actually make a plan for my money and get closer to my financial goals, but I'm never worried or stressed about when things are due anymore because, like mentioned, I am now a month ahead on my necessary expenses. I just realized I forgot to turn the camera on here, so here I am. Hello, this is what I look like if you've never been here before. But like I was talking about, what I really like about having this budgeting method is I'm no longer ever concerned about when a bill comes out because I've gotten ahead on my expenses. I'm not paying for last month's bills that were on my credit card. I'm thinking more towards the future, if that makes sense. Like, for example, I don't know when, other than rent, which is due on the 1st, I have no idea when other bills are due. Like, I'm not sure when the phone bill is due. I don't know when my YNAB subscription comes out. I've already made a plan to cover those expenses by the time they roll around. I have no idea if my student loans are in repayment at the moment. I have no idea what day they'd be due because I just don't worry about things like that. Spin classes, like these are due and I have no idea when it actually comes out of my bank account because I'm not worried about it. I've already set aside the money a month in advance for that expense. But yeah, that's what I do when I budget by paycheck. So if you're not a month ahead on your expenses, I highly recommend getting a month ahead on your expenses. But yeah, enough preamble. Let's go ahead and actually get into assigning out this money. So in YNAB, you give every dollar a job. So when you take a look over here in my cash accounts, I have a plan for every single dollar that I have in the bank. And if you take a look at my actual categories, these is essentially the plan for my money. So like mentioned, for the 15th time, I'm not worried at the moment about any sort of expenses for February. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get into my March budget and see how far I can get with assigning this money. The very first thing that I like to look at is my rent, but if we take a look here, I'm actually even further ahead on my rent. This is what I personally like to do. For a lot of people, rent is your largest expense, or your mortgage, for example, and I like being further ahead on that because I can kind of be more flexible with the rest of my money and my expenses if anything bad were to happen. But regardless, I need somewhere to live, so that is why I am further ahead on rent. So with each paycheck though, I just go to the next furthest part from rent, and I need to basically put aside half of rent with each paycheck, so $336.25 into my April rent, and that is the only expense that I like to get further ahead on. Going back into March, I'm just going to go ahead and look at anything that is underfunded and see what I need to do here. So some of these are sinking funds, and sinking funds is essentially you're just setting money aside over time, like a little bit over time. You might not have that expense every month, but when that expense does come around, you've already have money in your sinking fund that you can pull from rather than having to cash flow it from your paycheck, or cash flow the whole expense from your paycheck. So as it stands now, I'm going to put $34.17 into my phone plan. I did switch to Mint Mobile, and I am getting ahead on this because I've already paid for a year last month, so now I'm saving for the next year. And that's what I like about YNAB, is I can make a target or a category like months or years in advance, and then it will break it down for me how much I need to save each month to reach that goal by that deadline. And then moving on from there, next I have my YouTube Premium that comes out, so I'm going to set aside $24.83 there. And then I need to put in 99 cents for iCloud, and then $15.10 for my Apple Care. And this is for both Apple Care on my iPhone and my iPad. $15.10 there. I spend $12.99 on Canvas. That's just to make like my YouTube videos prettier, or at least my YouTube thumbnails. So that's what's happening there. And then from there, I don't actually think I have anything else that needs to happen. My Patreon here, it does say I need $216 a month, so I support a creator on Patreon. However, I have already put aside a year's worth. I just decided to do that for the ease of making things like simpler as I go through the months this year, because one of my goals for this year is to take any extra dollar I have and put it towards either my Roth IRA, my student loans, or my brokerage account. So I decided to pre-fund a lot of my like minor expenses into their categories for the whole year. And then as those expenses come out, it'll just draw down from these funds. However, my Kindle Unlimited, I need to put aside $12.89 because I can only pay for that monthly. So there's that. And then I personally just have a lot of little sinking funds along the way. Let's go ahead and do $11.70 into my AAA. I need to restart my car insurance category. So I do have car insurance coming out on March 6th, I believe. And I already know what that amount is. But now I'm going to go ahead and start saving for March or September when it renews again, because I pay it twice a year, and I'm just going to save $450 in between now and September, and split across 6 months. That's about $75 a month, so let me go ahead and set that aside. My fuel, I think I'm going to leave this for now because I still have $80. I have not spent any money yet on fuel for February. I do need to fill up soon, but for now, I'm not too worried about it. I'm actually going to switch from underfunded to all for a second here. I spent money on tires, but what I'm going to go ahead and do is recreate this category, or this goal, I guess, on YNAB. So let me move up here, and I'm going to click tires. As you can see, I spent money on tires. I bought 4 tires in this past month, and then I made one of my tires a full-size spare. And since I know that I'll eventually need tires again, I can save for this true expense, or this non-monthly expense, in very small increments over time, which is something I really like about YNAB. So I'm going to save $1,000, and since I just got them, I'm actually going to go all the way into, let's say, 2030 and see where that takes me. January of 2030, so 5 years from now, and we'll see how much it costs for me to budget that out. So January 31st, 2030, and I'll hit save. $1,000. It's telling me I need 39 cents. Are we sure that's accurate? Set aside oh, I think I know what it's doing. It's actually telling me I need to, it's basically just assuming I only need 22.80. Targets, I will admit, are a little weird on YNAB. So 1,000 divided by what? 58 months gets me to 17.24 a month. So let me change this target. I'm going to do it slightly differently. Instead of set aside 1,000, I'm going to do, actually, let me try this. Have a balance of 1,000 and see how that works. Okay, there we go. So $16.95 a month is what I need. So that's set aside now, and it might sound a little bit tedious to do it this way, but I personally like it quite a bit. And I think if you have large expenses that happen on a non-monthly or a non-specifically recurring basis, and you don't have a lot of income, or you can't easily cash flow those expenses on your income, that's what I really think YNAB is like perfect for. Because if I had to pay $1,000 just out of my paycheck in this month for tires, it would feel a little bit painful. But since I saved for it over time, and now I can save for the next set of tires over time, it's going to be a lot easier for me to save $17 a month than it is for me to save $1,000, or it is to find $1,000 in one go. Let's continue on. So I have a wish farm up here. There are two things I'm wishing for, which really just means the concept of a wish farm is like, it's things that you want but don't necessarily need for any particular reason or on any timeline. Like, for example, I want Invisalign, but I don't necessarily have a timeline for this, and it's not like a requirement. Like, I can survive just fine without like getting my teeth fixed. However, another example is my garden. I don't own a house, but my mom owns a house, and back in the day we had a garden when I was a kid, and we've kind of neglected it over the years. But one of the things I really want to get into is learning how to garden and basically get our own fruits and vegetables as much as we can, just because I think it's a good skill to have and it's something I'm interested in. So that is one of my wish farm items. I'm going to leave it alone for now, but just in case, if I have money, I might come back to these. I'm going to do $30 into household. This is just items like toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, things like that. I've also used it to buy like flowers for the house, so it can be like decorations too. It's just however I want to use it. My moving expenses, I currently haven't been touching this or putting money into this because I essentially, since I'm getting ahead on my rent each month, by the time May rolls around, I'm not going to need to keep putting money aside for this lease. So then I can take that money that I normally set aside for rent and throw it into the moving category. And then when I get a bonus, I believe sometime in the second paycheck of this month, I can set that into this as well. And that'll help me with the cost of moving. Stuff I forgot to budget for, I'm going to leave alone for now, since it's mostly just like a buffer category for me. I want to do $100 to my income replacement fund. So at the beginning of this year, I had an emergency fund expense, and instead of keeping a traditional emergency fund, I broke it out into different categories. Like, for example, specific emergencies that could pop up, so my insurance deductibles, and I did that for various expenses or emergencies. And now I basically have replaced my emergency fund with an income replacement fund, and I'm just kind of doing $100 over time. But the concept of this is that if you've covered your emergencies, the only real like remaining emergency that you have is you lose your job. So income replacement fund. Let's go ahead and do half of what I need for spin classes, since I know I have another paycheck coming. I think I'm going to cover all of these halfway just to keep it interesting, or to make it easy, I guess. 35 divided by 2, 1750. And then down here, I'm not going to put anything in here for now because I think I'm going to get a new therapist, and that's going to take some time. We'll do 20 here, 25 here. Copays and everything else, I'm going to leave this alone for now because I have had a lot of medical expenses lately, and instead of setting aside the money into like March's allocation for the sinking fund, I'm going to just put it in February since I've been actively spending from it. 42 divided by 2, 21. All of these dog expenses. So I do have a 1-year-old or almost 2-year-old Shih Tzu with my fiance Nathan. Since this year, I'm trying to work on paying off my student loans, and he doesn't have any student loans or any debt like that. He is is essentially helping me with that process, but not by making payments towards my student loans, but covering the expenses that we have for CC. And again, we're just setting up a sinking fund for CC. So that's why I'm not putting any money in here, but I still have like a monthly goal. Spotify, I've gotten rid of, so I'm not going to put $12.89 in there. I've actually changed my mind. Patreon, it's already set up for the year, so I'm not going to do anything there. Let's go ahead and do half of what we need for Black Friday, Christmas holidays, Christmas in July. This is just so I can buy Nutcracker tickets. 13.10 divided by 2, $25 into gifts. I'm going to leave donations alone for now, and then let's do the $12.50 for YouTube upgrades, and then going back into February. Now that I've essentially covered half of my expenses or my sinking funds for March, I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of this money and put it towards my current financial goals, so where every last dollar is going. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and set aside $200 into my food expenses. Now, let's go back here, and I'm trying to max out my Roth IRA, so per paycheck, this comes out to about $267 a month. So there's that. And then, so let me go ahead and snooze this category for February, because I'm at as far as I want to go with it. I believe so. Yeah, I'm at as far as I want to go with it. Then I'm going to do another $66.92 into my, where is it at? I'm going to do it into, as soon as I know, you'll know. Let me just snooze any categories I'm no longer worried about. So like my Buffalo Trace tour, we canceled it. We just don't want to go on a Sunday. Patreon, it needs snooze. It does not matter right now, so snoozed it is. Donations can be snoozed. I don't really know what to donate to, which is kind of a terrible excuse, but I already have 25 in there if I want to donate to something. And then YouTube upgrades, it's fine. It's not really a huge deal to upgrade my YouTube channel. So I'm really just looking for my medical expenses, because I have been getting some medical bills, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So we'll put our $66.92 into there, and then this remaining $200 I'm going to put, let's snooze the moving category too while we're at it. So snoozed it is, and groceries can be snoozed. And then what else we got? Nephew savings can be snoozed, maybe deleted or at least hidden for now, because I'm actually saving for my nephews. So one thing I value in life is I want to give back to my family. As of now, I don't really plan on having kids, but my brother has a 12 or 13-year-old. He's 12, about to turn 13 this year, nephew. And when he gets older, I'd love to be able to help him with any sort of opportunities that might come his way, like education or something that he needs that will help further his life and get him ahead in life, just because that's something I always wish I had when I was younger. So if I can do that for my nephew, my family, that's something I definitely want to do. Reason why I mentioned this is instead of saving for it in a sinking fund, since it has a multi-year horizon, I'm saving for the money, or I'm investing that money into the brokerage. So that's why I'm going to hide this category for now. I want to look at my March underfunded and see what exactly I'm underfunded on, just so I know where I'm at with this. It's telling me food. Some of these don't necessarily matter if I hit that target, like my brokerage. Obviously, my spend classes I definitely need to hit. And then some of these, since they're sinking funds, they have a little more flexibility. So if I want to look at what I definitely need to make sure I do, it's going to be groceries, dining out, just to make sure I'm still on track with my second paycheck from February. So Roth IRA, groceries, coffee, student loans, they're not currently in repayment, but I am basically building that muscle again. They're on forbearance because of the save plan, but I know they're going to go into repayment at some point this year likely. So that's what's happening there. So I want to make sure I am accounting for that. Spend classes, haircut, clothing, beauty, personal development. Not too worried about vacations because I already have one planned for March, so that's okay. Medical supplies, meds, copays, everything else. I'm going to undo that one since I'm kind of saving for it a little bit differently. Fuel, parking, auto, Future car is just not a main priority right now. All the pet expenses are going to be covered when Nathan sends me the money for them, so not too concerned. And then these fun expenses, since they're more fun, it's not like there's a specific timeline, so I'm not too worried there. Let's look at Black Friday, Christmas holidays, Christmas in July, and gifts. And yeah, so we are still on track with everything in that regard, so I'm not too concerned. Also, I think I should uncheck the Roth IRA because I'm kind of saving for that as I get the paychecks rather than saving in advance so I can invest the money as I go. Okay, yeah, we're doing completely fine. So this remaining $200, I'm going to put towards, like I mentioned, every last dollar or where my money is going if I have extra. And I'm going to do just 100 into my student loans and 100 into my brokerage. Well, I might do 50 into my brokerage, and then this remaining 50, I'm going to put in my groceries category because I'm kind of off pace on that, unfortunately. But yes. Okay, now I've given every dollar a job. I've made a plan for my money. So what's nice about this is as transactions come in, say if I spend money at the grocery store, it's going to take I spend $50. It's going to take this $50 from groceries and it's going to move it down to the credit card that I spent that on. So as long as I'm tracking my expenses and staying up to date in YNAB and reconciling my budget, what's nice about that is I will already have the money in my bank account or across my bank accounts because it adds all the total value of your bank accounts together in YNAB to figure out how much money you have. I know that I can make this Quicksilver payment without a problem. So it'll take the money from groceries, move it down to the Quicksilver card, for example, and then I can make the payment whenever I'm ready for it. So I'm not on the credit card float. So what that means is I'm not taking money that I'm currently getting paid and paying for expenses that already happened in the past, which is quite nice because that's how you get out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. But yes, hopefully you got something out of this video, especially if you're new here. I definitely go back and forth with whether or not I talk through how to actually use YNAB, or at least how I use YNAB, versus just kind of going through my thoughts and opinions or feelings that I've been having lately and how it's impacting my budget. If you got anything out of this video, I'd love it if you'd subscribe and like the video and stick around. But otherwise, hope that the month of February is going well for you, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye now.